I want to be very clear this morning in the purpose of my talk, and I'm going to stick fairly close to home in my notes. The purpose of my talk really this morning is to advocate something. I really believe that I want to forcefully challenge all of the traditional ways in which we're taught to speak in public. I don't think they're appropriate. I think, in fact, they're ineffective. And by and large, I don't think they serve us well, particularly as leaders, into the next century. And in the process of doing that, I want to make some new distinctions, perhaps some that you haven't heard, about what it really takes, the kind of communication it's going to take in the next 50 years to move an organization to action. Now, having said that, I hope that a lot of you haven't gone out and spent a lot of money on public speaking courses in the last couple, 3 months, because I don't really mean that they're totally ineffective. I just mean that it's not quite enough. And I think up to this point, we haven't had the tools, or maybe even the courage, to have a look at what it takes to move other people to action. We're entering into a new era now, an era that's going to require something brand new of us, something that we haven't been able to deliver before. And I think it's going to have particularly applicability across cultural lines. And part of the trip to the Far East was actually doing research in that, to see if some of the principles I'll talk about have applicability in other countries. So I want to keep my remarks this morning very focused on that one subject: public speaking or communication as leaders. Now, I have great respect for people that deal with leadership in other aspects. In fact, some people that have been in this forum, some friends of mine, Jim Kouzes, Barry Posner, and other people that speak about the realm of leadership. But I really believe that leadership and communication are synonymous. I think they're exactly the same thing. Now, they say that, you know, if the only tool you have is a hammer, you see everything as a nail. But that's the approach that I want to take this morning, and that is that speaking and leadership are indeed synonymous. Speaking, I believe, is the gateway to leadership. And I want to take some time this morning to kind of substantiate that view, and the view that what we've been doing is not adequate. And then I want to give you some real examples and some things that you can take home to actually improve your own speaking. I guess I want you to appreciate, too, that anybody that speaks about public speaking is really fairly stupid. You know, I mean, I have a real chance to be a fool here this morning. This is not unusual in my line of work and my personal life. But anybody that speaks and makes sure that they perform in a way that you can see whether or not what I'm advocating is effective or not, you've got to question their intelligence. I remember when I was with IBM, I was serving in Florida as the area manager in a small marketing operation. Part of the assignment was to develop, at that time, this was 1972, some new, quote, marketing ways for IBM. And we were doing it kind of clandestinely. They really didn't want to know that IBM was experimenting in ways of marketing that involved something besides a male salesperson with a striped tie and 4-pound shoes and, you know, the traditional ways of marketing. So we were down there doing kind of a skunk works in marketing. We actually put out the first catalog for IBM, opened the first store for IBM in San Juan, Puerto Rico. And I was really frustrated because I didn't have the outward corporate support I thought I needed. I wrote this vitriolic letter to the president of the division, and I reported to the vice president of marketing at the time. Well, about 3 weeks later, I got a call, and the president was coming down to see me, along with the VP of marketing. I thought it was going to be my last day with IBM. But instead, he offered me a job as assistant to the president for this division in New York. And again, being fairly young, I took the job. And I went up, and of course, the first thing I had to do was answer my own letter. He handed it to me and said, "Can you do something about this?" So that's kind of the situation I find myself in this morning. I'm really going to speak to you about speaking, and in doing that, I have to be effective. I also want to acknowledge that speaking to a group like this is something special. And at the same time, it's kind of seductive. For those of you that are taking notes, if there are any that are taking notes, I want you to know that the acknowledgement really may be the first lesson in public speaking, and that is that it's the balance between context and content. What we're prone to talk about is content, in this country at least. See, content is the rules.